Yay, Blair.
As Chan said, I wasn't there when Chan was there, but I've had this, I have this great fondness for Chan and Moni, and as I said to Chan earlier, I always read his letters that he sends, and this last letter that he wrote, which is the letter announcing that I will start to cry now, that he's, that they're leaving Blair and going on another adventure, was a beautiful letter and made me cry. Anyway, so there are a couple of things that I highlighted in that letter because I think so much of what I love about Blair Academy actually is what I have fallen in love with since you guys have been there. Actually, I didn't. When I left Blair, I sort of lost touch for a while, and I went back for one of our reunions. Tom, do you remember? Was it our 10?
I think it was our 10. I
think it might have been our 10. And I think that's probably when I met you guys, and then we started connecting out here. And for whatever reason, I rediscovered and reconnected with everything that I loved about the school, and I started really actively reading the bulletins when they came and checking up on what my classmates were doing. And I started giving to Blair, and then giving as I became more successful and made more money, gave more to Blair. And it really is such everything that I learned at that school and everything that I became through my experience there has really, I think has really, is a real big part of why I have become productive and successful. And anyway, so I wrote a little bit, and I'm going to read from some parts. I hope that's okay, because I could really get off track and go on a tangent here. As I said, or I didn't say, I'm class of '85 with Tom, and as some actress friends of mine who graduated the same year might say, I'm class of '95. It's an honor to have been asked to speak to you about this place that has had such a profound effect on my life, and for which I feel such a deep sense of gratitude and commitment. There are those who chose Blair Academy for its top-notch faculty and its sterling academic reputation. There are those who chose it for the beauty of its campus, its diverse, engaged student body, and then there are those who chose Blair because whenever they went to a souvenir shop, they could never find one of those tiny license plates that had their name on it, those little beautiful pens that had their name. There'd be Beth, there'd be Betty, there'd be Brenda. So when these people found an institution that had a student store in which every banner, every shot glass, every pair of underwear had her name on it, became the sole basis for the most important decision of her life. That, and it also said in the description in this book that my mom had given me, when she said, you're going to Blair Academy, you're going to go to boarding school, and here's a book of boarding schools. This is to a kid that grew up in Miami. Boarding school was not popular in Miami. It said in the description too, there was this great picture of 3 kids wearing Blair football and Blair soccer sweatshirts, so that was number 1. And number 2, it said there was a bus that went into New York City from Blairstown. That is the place for me. So anyway, I won't tell you which category I fell into, but I will say, thank God my name isn't Petty. Choosing Blair was the luckiest decision I've ever made. When I first came to Blair, I had very little focus, not a lot of direction, definitely not any discernible skills or talent yet. I was poorly read, I made reckless, impulsive decisions. I was a slight bit angry at 13 and really obnoxious. Little did I know then that these were the exact qualities that would enable me to become a successful Hollywood talent. But at the time, it was very clear to both my parents and to me to some extent that the kind of environment that would help instill in me an ethic of disciplined community, selflessness, love of learning, and the rewards of hard work were what I really needed. Blair did all of that for me, and it did so by utilizing the one talent I seemed to possess at the time, my knack for making mistakes. I often tell people that my proudest high school achievement was not great grades, not even getting accepted to college, but winning the senior class award for the most improved student. I don't know if that award still exists, but it was the one that I won. And when I went back for our 10-year reunion, I was very happy to see my name up there on that plaque. I wasn't actually a terrible kid, but as I said earlier, I just lacked the ability to distinguish between a good choice and a bad choice. there were a number of incredible faculty members, very patient faculty members, who helped guide me from a distinct follower to somewhat of a leader, and each of them had their own inimitable style, but all of them had one thing in common, and that common denominator, as I recall, was a sense of humor. They did it with love and a sense of humor. It's funny, Dave Lowe sent me this email which they copied Chan and Moni on. I'll read you one paragraph that I thought really summed me up there. I don't know what your recollection of me was there, but he wrote to me, "Of course you know that if I were in that audience," meaning this audience, "I'd be tempted to bring up all sorts of questions relating to your undergraduate activities and priorities at Blair way back in the day, with the standing caveat that the then Dean of Students would have lips sealed about any adolescent indiscretions that might have landed the speaker in his office. How many sunrises did you in fact accumulate over the years?" Do they still have sunrises? I don't know. Okay. It was a crazy, mandatory study hall very early in the morning.
Sunrise?
I got rid of them.
Thank you.
Probably a good thing that I won't be there directly.
I would have been there the whole time.
Dave Lowe, by the way, this guy, when I started at Blair Academy, he was the Dean of Admissions, and he was the person that accepted me. So I am sure that it's a very different school today than it was when we were there. And I always think, I do think to myself very frequently, I wonder what boarding school is like now that you have access. I don't even know, we haven't even talked about this access to iPhones and iPads. I mean, we just had like the payphone in the hallway, right? Yeah. And like I would call my parents maybe once every couple of weeks, and then there would be messages that you would get, remember?
Right.
On the board. And
we had to go to the mailbox.
Right, and we did go to the mail. We went to the mailbox, and that woman was there. She was amazing.
Very
amazing.
Okay. Anyway, you know, about Dave Lowe. I mean, he was an incredible person who instructed with a firm hand, and as I said, had a real sense of humor. And there was a wonderful couple there at the time who are not there anymore. Charlie and Lois Underwood, and Lois ran our dorm. She ran the girls' dorm, and Charlie was our English teacher. And you know, Lois provided me and provided all of us with this maternal strength and this incredible wisdom. And there was our tennis coach, Elliot Trumbull. Was he your tennis coach? Right? He was our tennis coach. By the way, Tom Hewlett, exceptional tennis player, by the way. And Elliot was the head of our table. He was the head of my table. And he really taught with great sarcasm and great wit. And these were, you know, for me, they were parents to me. I mean, they were, you know, I got there when, I mean, as many of us did, when, you know, you're 13 years old. It's quite a shocking experience to show up somewhere completely foreign at 13 years old, at that time with no connection really to your family. And where I came from, structure was really hard to come by. I came from two very chaotic households, and you know, it was clear, as I said earlier, my mother, however she got to this idea, suggested boarding school. Unfortunately, she billed it to me as summer camp all year long. It was hardly that. I was pretty pissed off. Because as you can imagine, growing up in Miami in the 70s and early 80s was wild, it was fun, and it was crazy, and it was chaotic. And it was a very difficult transition for me. And it became very clear to me that I was not comfortable with this kind of consistency and this kind of structure and this kind of firmness. But no matter how hard I pushed all of these people's buttons, they were there and they never bailed out, and they saw in me clearly something I had not seen in myself. And one of the things that I took away from my experience at Blair, and I don't know if it's I mean, it must be, because you guys are incredibly playful. You're firm and you're strong, but you're playful. We really learned to play hard, and we learned to work hard there. And we had a lot of fun, and we got in a lot of trouble, but for whatever reason, they were able to see in all of us, I think, our potential when we couldn't see it for ourselves. And I went from being suspended and a lot of sunrises to becoming a prefect my senior year. I don't know that I actually deserved the honor or really earned it, but I think that they saw or were insightful enough to know that I was capable of that kind of role, and that most importantly would have a real lasting impact. It was, being a prefect gave me confidence that I didn't have in myself before that, and it's that confidence that carried me through senior year to Sarah Lawrence, which was anything but Blair Academy, and it was great, but it had all, it had none of the structure that Blair Academy had. It was very freewheeling. It did not have any of the organization. It was an amazing experience, but had I not been to Blair Academy, I would never have survived Sarah Lawrence, nor would I have flourished. And I would definitely, without Blair Academy and all that it gave me, never have been able to survive here. And I've been in the business now for 24 years. I've been at UTA for 15 years. I found in UTA and its community the same kind of rootedness and family values that I found at Blair Academy in those teachers that had such an impact on my life. You know, it's the longest commitment I've ever made. Hopefully my commitment to David will very much outlast my commitment to UTA. But so far this is my longest marriage. The other invaluable lesson, and I touched on it earlier, that I learned at Blair Academy was to navigate the fear of the unknown. And as I said, when you land in this unfamiliar territory in a culture that's so different from where you come from, and you really are in the, I guess you're at the height of your adolescence, you don't know that you can overcome fear, and you don't know how to get past those hurdles. And once these teachers help you get through it, there's an exhilaration that I found in overcoming all of my fears there. And I think that I went into Sarah Lawrence with a certain superpower that I could only have gotten at Blair Academy and through being a boarding student there. I don't think I would have gotten that in my day school in Miami, not remotely. The other thing that I thought about as I was reflecting on this, I don't remember who told me about Sarah Lawrence. I think that I might have read, I think I read The Color Purple in Charlie Underwood's class. I think that he may have given me a book by Alice Walker because I loved that book so much. And I think in that book was a commencement speech she gave at Sarah Lawrence. And I think that's how I got onto Sarah Lawrence truly, because no one else had gone there from Blair Academy as I can recall, and nobody was applying there. So I will say there was an art teacher, I've completely lost touch with her, but her name was Suzanne Tanner. She drove me from Blair Academy in a snowstorm to my interview at Sarah Lawrence. And we had this incredible conversation on the way there, and I was really, really nervous. And I tell this story often. I got to the interview after probably a 3-hour drive from Blairstown to Bronxville in the snowstorm with funny Suzanne Tanner. And the guy that interviewed me, I sat down, I was exhausted. He held up a newspaper, and from behind the newspaper he said to me, "How do you plan on impressing me today?" And I'm sure this isn't there now, but when we were there were smokers, and we smoked cigarettes.
Redneck.
What was it?
Redneck.
Okay, so we had these rooms in the dorms, which is like preposterous to me now, thinking back on it. So I had a lighter in my pocket, and I lit his newspaper up. Okay, that's what happened. Okay, I think that I had somewhere in me, I think that that was given to me by Blair Academy. That spark, that controversy, I think that I got that at Blair Academy. And I don't think that I would have gotten that at any other prep school, to be honest. I have to say. Anyway, I got accepted. It was the only school I applied to. That was another strange thing, but it was the only school I applied to. And you know, as I look back on it, I mean, Sarah Lawrence did give me a lot of great gifts, but Blair Academy, I think, gave me that structure, as I keep talking about, which allowed me to live in chaos and live with a freedom and an entrepreneurial spirit that really set me on this course. I came here on the night of graduation. I came here the night of June 1st, 1989, which was the night of my graduation, with my then college roommate, who continues to be my best friend, and we were just on vacation with her, Juliana Margulies, the good wife. Yay, Juliana. So we came here on the night of our graduation. We followed a guy who was ahead of us, J.J. Abrams, creator of everything, I guess, except Will and Grace. And I got here that night, and I got a job at an agency called Bauer Benedek, and Bauer Benedek was one of the small agencies that merged to become UTA. I made a couple of missteps, one of which was leaving Bauer Benedek, because I think if I had stayed, I'd be on the board of directors, not just a partner. But I left, and I gained some tremendous experience working at Fox, working on movies like Alien 3, which was David Fincher's first movie, and then from there I went to Brillstein Bray, and worked on such fine films as Billy Madison and what other, Adam Sandler, I don't even know, I can't even remember. Then I went to work for Oliver Stone, and I worked there from the end of Natural Born Killers through Nixon. Then I went back to Fox, and then I came here in 1997 as an agent. And, you know, I've had these conversations with Eli and a lot of the young people here at UTA. I think, you know, I tell these young people, like, you have to stick to it. You have to persevere. I don't know where I got it from. I think I got it from Blair Academy. I think I just, you can't give up, and you can't, you just have to stay the course even when you get distracted. You know, it's like when I hear you say, like, I came out here, I want to act, stick to it. You know, I didn't come out here saying I want to be an agent, but one of the things I wrote in this speech here, I wish I could find it. Oh yeah, another incredible contribution and gift was learning from Mr. Underwood the art of storytelling, and he really had so much to do with my love of literature and my love of writers and my love of storytellers. And I got here and I didn't know that I wanted to be an agent, but I knew that I mean, one of the great gifts I learned at Sarah Lawrence when you are in a writing class with J.J. Abrams, I learned that I was not a great writer, and I'm married to an incredible writer. I am not talented. I don't have great artistic gifts, but I love being around artists. I don't. You're shaking your head, but I don't. David Geffen said it in his documentary that he is not a very talented person. He's not very gifted, but he likes to be around gifted people, and I knew I loved that. And so being an agent allows me the great fortune to be around amazing, talented people every day of my life. And there are highs and there are lows, like anything. It's a job. My boss always says to me, it's called work. If it was called fun, it would be fun. But it's work, and it's called work for that very reason. But it's been an amazing ride, and I feel very fortunate to have been on this great journey. Should I talk about, am I done?
No, I just want to make sure you know you're all set.
I'm set. That's my story.
And
I'm very happy to answer questions.
Well, that's why before I take over, I would like to give